So is it good or bad that we're starting to see Skinner's point? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 8 of Lazarus. And yeah, as I said in the cold open, we're starting to see like the point of what Skinner's been saying about like the entire destruction of the earth with all the climate change issues brought upon by humanity. And our heroes in the last episode started to actually question things. I think most notably Chris was like wondering if like maybe he could have been right. And the entire seventh trumpet thing was brought up with them realizing that the first six had already been blown. That it's there was enough warning to stop this kind of shit, and just people didn't do anything, and that's why Skinner is doing what he's doing now. He's trying to make people aware of the fact that we're destroying the planet, and the way he's doing it is not necessarily the greatest, but still. I feel like it is a pretty notable wake up call, at least. And I brought up the idea before of like, what if this just won't work? Like, what if this like worked in the monkey, but what if it doesn't work in humans? What if it's like not actually going to do anything, and he's just like seeing how people react, and like seeing if they actually start to get off their asses and do something. It's possible, but I don't know. There's a part of me that would feel a little cheated if that were the case, but also there's a part of me that would feel like I could see that being the case. Just blatantly lying to get people to actually, take action for once. I mean, I assume we're going to find out by the end because this is like a single season story. It's meant to be. It's just like a lot of Shinichiro Watanabe's works. It's not meant to be like this long ongoing thing. It's telling a succinct story that just handles its business and leaves off there. And like some of these stories would be, great with like additional content, and like Cowboy Bebop obviously had a movie that went along with it. But in the long run, it's like some of these shows are as good as they are because they don't try to overstay their welcome. Like, would I love a second season of Carol and Tuesday? Absolutely. I would fucking adore that. But at the same time, Carol and Tuesday is so good because it told its story exactly as it meant to, without having like needless other plot lines and future seasons and everything. Everything was as it needed to be. And I'm happy for that. And I like shows that have multiple seasons as long as they don't go on too long and, run the risk of getting bad. But I think this is one of those shows that I feel like everything's going to be resolved and there's not really going to be room for anything more after this. Last episode also featured a lot of sexiness. We saw characters with their shirts off. We saw Chris in a bikini. It was very hot. And that was that was intentional. But it was also functional. And this is like I think I said this last time, but I've said this in the past. This is like kind of the best kind of fan service where it's like, yeah, it's obviously meant to be enticing, but it's also logical for what's happening in the story, and it honestly wouldn't even make sense if there wasn't a bit of fan service there. Because with what they were doing and what they needed to do, plus with the entire global warming message, and how they were finding that out with the locations they were going to that had, sunk underwater due to the ice caps melting, it's like, yeah, it made perfect sense. It was logical and believable and it served the story. And yes, it was really nice to look at. Between the likes of like Chris, Axel, Doug, that's like a lot of hot people here. But at the same time, again, it's a matter of it's a matter of the story, because the reason they were having to dive down in the first place was because, again, these locations got flooded due to the ice caps melting and everything, the water levels of the earth rising, and it really sends home the message. But the biggest mystery of last episode, outside of the like ongoing mystery with Skinner, was who is this woman at the end? Is she related to Chris? Why does she call Chris by another name? What is the deal with this? Because this woman obviously looks a lot like Chris. We saw her a couple points throughout the episode. And now she finally confronted her at the end of the episode. They've got to be related, right? Like, they look so much alike. I assume Chris is not her birth name, but it's the name she goes by, so I believe I said this last time, I will still refer to her as such. But it seems like she might have had a different name originally, if this is a family member or whatnot, or maybe that's like I don't know, something else going on. But it seems like family member is most likely. But I'm very interested to see what that's all about. I assume we're going to find out probably right away. Unless it like goes forward and then comes back to it. Shows have done that before, so we'll see. Let us get into this though, and I guess find out. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we're back. We will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I'm not crying, you're crying. Like that actually did get me at the end there. Ah, fuck. Ah. Stop it. Stop crying. Well, I mean, this episode confirmed Chris is my favorite character. um, just the amount of depth here. The amount that was able to be, like, discovered, like, really quickly through so little information. Because even, like just the first moment it showed the piano before, but the moment it showed the piano, it showed her playing the piano, and then the hand come and wrap around hers, it's like instantly understood what that meant. Instantly understood. It was a lot of great writing and a lot of great show don't tell in that regard. On top of just, fantastic animation. And this episode, like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who say this episode felt like filler, but because it didn't have pretty much anything to do with the Skinner stuff. But, and I want to make this clear. I'm not saying this just to be rude. But if you think this was filler, you're kind of dumb. Because not only was this exceptionally important to Chris's character, which multiple episodes of this series have, been dedicated to developing these characters. Not only was this, essential to developing her character and expressing like a lot about her that like explains a lot that we've seen from her. Even it explains a lot of like moments we've gotten, like in terms of how good she is with guns and everything, for example, and how she hasn't quite connected with the rest of the team, things like that. um in the same ways that others have connected more now, I'm saying. But it's like it's also essential to showcase how the team is growing closer. And while she hasn't like connected with them, they've connected with her. And they see her not only as just an essential member of the team, they see her as someone that they care about, a friend. Like they are so quick to like say like no matter what, they're going to go save her. They're going to go stop her from being, killed by this measure that was put into her bracelet that she herself asked for, presumably for this kind of reason. She saw herself, as we see, as kind of unlovable because the one person she truly loved and who she knew truly loved her back, she left. She abandoned. And she did it to protect her. She did it to, keep her from being killed by their agency and everything. But she still abandoned her. And she knew Inga would have figured it out. She knew Inga wouldn't wouldn't believe she was dead. Although she, again, technically did die, just temporarily. Which can happen. That does actually happen in real life, so there is a precedence for that. But she used that opportunity to escape because apparently they had wanted to escape prior. They had wanted to, but there was really no way for them to get out. She used this opportunity to escape, but she did it knowing she was also leaving behind her lover. The person she cared about the most and the person who cared about her. And it ate away at her. It made her feel like she was unworthy of love and protection. And so she probably didn't think the others were going to come for her, just like Inga clearly didn't think anyone would come for her. She thought that she would end up dying there. Like she did. She really did. And funny enough, outside of like the rest of Lazarus, she was the only survivor out of them. Because of everything that happened and everything that needed to happen and whatnot. And but the worst part of it was that she, after kind of like reconnecting with Inga and everything, they were having their moment there. Inga was, killed by the asshole. I don't know if it ever said a name for him, but he's just a fucking asshole. But yeah, she was killed by him and like died in Chris's arms, which that's gonna fuck you up. Like the one person you've like loved beyond anyone else for your entire life, who again you had to leave just to keep safe. Well, not to. It was the only way to leave and keep her safe. It's like to have her die in your arms while it's very clear she still had love for her. Like she even said, it's like she could change her face and everything and her appearance in all these ways, but she couldn't change her heart. When she saw her again, like that's what like caused her to hesitate and what caused her to be captured in the first place was because her heart, like, made her hesitate because she still loved her. And that love is never going to go away. Even if she finds someone else, it's like that love is never going to go away. She will always have that love for Inga. And I was hoping for like one last kiss, like before she died at the end, and I'm a little disappointed it didn't happen, but I'm also kind of glad that it didn't. It's this weird thing, because it's like it didn't have to rely on that, because we understood all the emotions without having to have them kiss. Like, we understood that they were lovers. There was no secret to that. It wasn't a mystery. It was obvious. And we still understood the pain that Chris had, like, having Inga die in her arms. We saw how much it fucked her up. She very much expressed that pain. The kiss wasn't necessary. It would have been nice, but it wasn't necessary. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't just, like, take the easy way out with that. They didn't just go, like, with the simplistic route that most media would probably go for. But yeah. So there's a little bit of a disappointment, but also I'm glad that they went the route they did. And it's and we know it's not like Shinichiro Watanabe and the team, like, not wanting to have them kiss, because it's like we've seen Carol and Tuesday. There has been gay kissing. As I've said in the past, Carol and Tuesday was also just an extremely queer show, so, to be fair. But, yeah, like, Chris realizing that everyone there cares for her is going to help her a lot. Like, that, she genuinely believed that she wasn't worth saving. But Axel telling her, like, we don't care who you used to be, we like you for who you are now. That's, like, that also speaks to me on a few levels. Um, as a trans woman, it's like, obviously it speaks to me on that level, with, like, the idea of who I used to be not mattering anymore, and it matters about who I am now, and that people like me for who I am now. Obviously a different situation, but, you know, with the fact that her appearance has changed, her name has changed, like, there could be some the comparisons drawn. I'm not saying, like, she's supposed to be an allegory for trans people. No, because this show had a trans character in it. There would be no reason to do that way. But it absolutely still speaks to that kind of idea that can, like, connect with trans people and, you know, other kinds of people as well. Because this also speaks to me on a level of, like, I've done bad things in the past. And I've talked about this before, and I'm very open about this because of how much I've worked to change myself. I feel like I need to be open, I need to be honest, in order to not only acknowledge to myself that I've changed, but work to make sure that that sticks. I've done and said bad things in the past. I've shoplifted, I've hurt people, I've just said things that were, like, you know, terrible, and in some cases, like, heavily bigoted. And I I have worked really hard to change that. And a lot of it was because of people, like, you know, helping me see that I was in the wrong. They told me I was in the wrong, why I was in the wrong, and they helped make me see that I needed to change. And it didn't happen overnight. It took years. And I changed in some ways before I changed in others. But I've been working to like better myself. And I continue to do so. Because I do say things that are bad sometimes. I do mess up. Sometimes I'll say something or do something that's, like not that great. It happens. But I've heard people like word it this way before. What matters more is not what you do and say, but what you do and say after that. What matters is how you handle having done or said something bad. And it reminds me of this story I heard, a real story. There was this guy who committed these crimes. I don't remember exactly what they were, but he was supposed to be like sent to prison for like, I don't know, it was like 16, 17 years, something like that. But for some reason, due to a clerical error in the system, the cops just never showed up for him. They never showed up to take him to prison, and he ended up like basically getting away with it. And he was willing to go to prison because he knew what he had done was wrong. But this clerical error like basically made it think that he was already in prison, so they never just showed up for him. And I guess they never checked to make sure somehow. But for like the next like again 16, 17 years, they thought he was there, so they didn't do anything. But when they went to release him, they found out, oh, he had never been there. So they went to arrest him after that, and he ended up getting like everything was dropped, and he ended up going free after that anyway. He never ended up serving in prison at all. And the reason for this was because during that time, during those 16, 17 years that he was supposed to be in prison, he not only turned his life around and became not only just an upstanding citizen, but actually worked to be a motivational speaker. He actively worked to help others not make the same mistakes he did. He not only turned himself around, but worked to help others in similar situations to make the world a better place. He was let go. He was everything was dropped because of that. Because he used that time he was supposed to be in prison to change himself and to change others. And he was successful with this. And it was just like it's a great story that feels like it should be made up, but it's a real thing. And it's kind of like wonderful to see that he like changed himself that much. I wish I knew his name. Maybe I can find. Actually, I might be able to find the story real quick. I don't know how else to look it up, so I'm just going to type into Google here. Guy was supposed to be in prison for 17 years. See if I can find it. No. I've seen things like, oh, a man is wrongly convicted. Clerical error turned life around. I don't know how else to look this up. Okay, it was 13 years. He was a Missouri man named Cornelius Mike Anderson. Mike is like what he goes by. Cornelius, I guess, is his actual name. It was 13 years, not 16 or 17. I was pushing it up a little bit. But yeah, he was initially sentenced to 13 years in prison for a robbery in 1999. 13 years for just a robbery. I mean, it must have been like a notable robbery. Due to a clerical error, he was never actually sent to prison despite his sentence being ended. During the 13 years he was free, Anderson built a life for himself, getting married, having children, owning a contracting business, and even coaching football. He never changed his name and never owned a corporation and paid his taxes. Officials eventually realized the error and he was arrested. However, after a petition was filed and a hearing was held, a judge agreed to release Anderson, citing his good behavior and the lack of a clear need for him to be imprisoned. So yeah, it's this was a real thing that happened. He even has a Wikipedia page. Let me see if I could find like more about this here. He even had a lawyer who knew about this and told him that it was the state of Missouri's job to discover this, to figure this out. But yeah, that's really fascinating too. And I want to look up real quick because I don't want to forget about this. Shashenka, which is what Inga was calling her, right? Oh, Sashenka is a affectionate shortened form of the name Alexandra. So it's basically it's basically like a cute pet name. It's basically like a cute pet name she was using for Chris. You obviously referencing her original name and everything. Okay, so that's fair. I thought it was gonna be like some like word for like my love or something like that. Um, but yeah, this episode just like was really good, and I really hope we do get to continue to see like Chris start to like bond more with them now, with the rest of Lazarus, now that she's like realized how much they genuinely care about her. I hope we start to see a lot more of that and see her like maybe even open up a lot more. That would be really nice. That would be like just pretty great to see. But we will see how that goes next time, I guess. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Lazarus. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.